you don't mind, I'd like to weigh in on the amendment to the motion. So having gone through a new housing project within the last 2 years, again, you're well familiar with the fact that I stayed within the height. There are practical reasons for snow load that I've mentioned before, which is additional cost to build to a higher standard per square foot. It's less desirable. I don't have an attic, right? Not that I'm guaranteed an attic when you build a house. Most people have attics to store stuff. I don't. And there's a basic principle that you do not own a view unless you have a deed restriction, on a parcel when you buy it, that your neighbor has a deeded view restriction. And that's just a basic principle, right? You don't own it. So that discussion to me is mute. And the further point of it is that, I was dragged into an appeal of the building inspector's decision that my house complied with the zoning and the building and the pre-existing height. I spent $4,000 defending myself in that. And so the thing is that I forget who was making the litigious neighbor comment, is that I did everything right. This is a personal experience, and I was still dragged in, in front of the ZBA to say, hey, what did you do, right? And this neighbor had every opportunity during the permitting process to say, I don't agree with it. It's on the plan. It looks wrong. Didn't understand the pre-existing height calculation. And the guy's an attorney that deals in land use, right? And so the thing is that the predictability of even a 30-foot height exception without city council approval drags people into a costly process. And I've lived through it, right? With a neighbor who is still a neighbor, right? And so the fact is that you don't own the view. It's arbitrary, in my opinion, that 30 feet is the number, right? And if you want to buy a house in the front row, buy a house in the front row. If you don't want to buy a house in the front row, don't, right? But that doesn't give you any right, more right or less right to whatever you think you have your parcel, right? So I'm not going to vote for this amendment of this motion. In favor, that is.